Welcome! I present to you the M4A1 75W China, a Taiwanese modification of the Sherman tank. It is a variant unique to the Chinese tech tree, placed at Tier 3 and at 4.0 battle rating. It is also, as you might have guessed from the video title, not very good. I will first begin by discussing this tank in comparison to its peers, the other 4.0 rated 75 Shermans in the American and the German tech trees, of each of which have one, as well as its predecessor in the Chinese tech tree, the M4A4. Starting with the obvious differences here, you can immediately notice on the stat cards that the Chinese Sherman, unlike its same BR counterparts, does not have access to smoke grenades. It does have access to smoke shells, like them, but smoke shells are a lot more situational and less convenient than just having smoke grenades. In terms of performance, looking at the stat cards, it would seem that the M4A1 has a worse engine than the other Shermans, but in practicality, the difference is more or less negligible. Even when I tested uphill and reverse scenarios, I only got very slight differences of 1 to 2 kilometers per hour, and they're pretty much the same on flat terrain. Add-on armor only adds about 1 ton to an already 32-ton tank to begin with, so it also makes a negligible difference. So let's come back to the main selling point of this tank at its BR, which is supposed to be its armor. And yes, if you look at the mantlet, you'll see that it covers the entire front of the turret, and it's quite thick. But it does lose the double-layer gun cover that is found on the other Shermans. One unique feature of the M4A2 in the US tech tree is that it is the earliest Sherman to get access to add-on armor. The German capture variant also gets access to this add-on armor, albeit slightly less of it, which you'll notice on the sides of the hull and the turret. But in exchange, it also doesn't have to face high-powered German weaponry, especially on Panzer IVs, for example. The Chinese M4A1, unfortunately, does not get access to this add-on armor. Of course, some 20mm tracks aren't exactly a game-changer for a tank. It's not enough for me to call a tank bad. So instead, I'm going to show you another fatal flaw that the Chinese M4A1 has. And here you see. Yes, you might think, oh, that's just on the corner of the vehicle. Shells that penetrate there shouldn't. I disagree. A massive frontal weak spot not found on the M4A2 or the German capture variants, who have uniform front plates of the same thickness as the one on the M4A1, minus the massive corner weak spots. And lastly, we shouldn't forget your gun, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's a 75mm cannon, but you see, unlike the M4A2 or the captured German variant, your M4A1 does not have access to APCR shells, which can penetrate up to 140mm of armor, or if you're up close. Your APHE is the best you get in this tank, with only 104mm of penetration. Considering that their BR as 75 Shermans, I would argue that the APCR shell allows the gun to remain competitive even at this BR, especially when you're facing Soviet or British heavies in an up tier. To resume this part of the review / rant, playing this tank is kind of like playing a Paradox game without any DLC installed. Playable? Yeah. Good? No. If you like self-suffering and decide to also play this tank, I can suggest to you 2 ways in which I have found the most success playing this tank, depending on whether you're up-tiered or down-tiered, as well as on the map. The first method, make use of your turret armor. As long as you don't expose your hull and your massive corner weak spots, you're pretty much invulnerable in a down tier, as your metal covers the entire front of the turret, and it's got volumetric armor. Stick close to the front line, since you do not have access to APCR ammo, and your gun is rather underpowered at this BR. Use your favorable gun depression and stabilizer to shoot and scoot. Pico over a hill, shoot, go back down. Repeat. This strategy works quite well as long as you do not expose your hull. Again, do not expose your hull at any circumstance, you will die. and it works quite well as long as you remain at or below 4.3 battle rating. Should you have an urban map where this strategy is not possible, or in case you're up tiered, then more risk-taking strategies may become necessary, in which you have method 2. Go for flanking maneuvers. Since you don't have high penetrating shells, again the APCR, you're going to have to aim for the sides. Play it as you would a light tank. Go seek out forward positions and set up ambushes. Try and avoid being seen. Again, easier said than done. To finish the review, I'm going to give my honest opinion on how this tank could be made more fun to play, just viable. And it's quite simple really. If you look up some old Reddit posts, you can find that this tank actually used to be a 3.7 alongside the T-34 1943. And T-34 1943 is a very good tank, I would recommend you play it. And they were both moved up to 4.0 in an update. But the problem with this Sherman is, in my opinion at least, it is just not the same level as the other Shermans at the same BR, and hence shouldn't be at the same BR, and it deserves a down tier. Thank you for watching. If you disagree with my opinions or would otherwise like to discuss any of the points I made during this video, please feel free to leave a comment. If you have other candidates for this series, feel free to write them down as well. Goodbye.